Good evening. Wherever you are, however your day has unfolded, welcome. The world outside is quiet now. Perhaps a car hums faintly in the distance. Perhaps rain whispers against a window. But in here, there is only softness. The kind of stillness that happens when curiosity and calmness meet halfway. If you're lying in bed, let yourself sink a little deeper into it. If you're just sitting, waiting for sleep to find you, that's all right too. We're not in a hurry tonight. We have the whole expanse of the night to think, to drift, to learn in slow motion. Tell me, where in the world are you listening from tonight? Somewhere it's snowing, somewhere it's spring. Someone is hearing these words in the half light before dawn. Someone else under the glow of street lamps reflected in puddles. All of us in our own ways are sharing this small moment of quiet thought before dreams. I hope this won't keep you awake with curiosity. Though, knowing how fascinating the sleeping brain can be, it just might. That's the paradox of this series, isn't it? Learning about sleep while drifting into it. Studying wakefulness from the edge of unconsciousness. So let's begin gently. Imagine a room, perhaps your own, or perhaps an old observatory at midnight. The walls breathe with shadows, and on a desk rests a cup that's been cooling for a while. A single lamp pools golden light on a notebook filled with half-finished thoughts. This is where our story begins, at the border between thought and rest. We often think of the night as an ending, but really, it's an opening. A vast, dark canvas the brain paints upon every time we close our eyes. Inside that darkness, astonishing things unfold. Neurons whisper to one another. Cells repair. Memories line up like children waiting for their turn to be chosen. You might think of your brain as silent while you sleep, but it isn't. It's humming, composing, rewriting the story of who you are. For all our instruments and imaging, for every glowing scan and scientific chart, sleep still holds secrets that shimmer just beyond understanding. We know some of what happens, that REM cycles flicker through the night like tides, that muscles fall quiet while the mind takes flight, that chemicals wash through the brain like gentle rain. But we still don't quite know why we dream, why the mind spins stories in the dark. Maybe that's what draws us back to this question again and again. The beautiful unknowability of it. Dreams are both science and poetry, structure and chaos, chemistry and art. They are what the brain does when freed from daylight logic. As you listen, notice how your thoughts begin to soften around the edges. Curiosity, when slowed down, becomes peace. Even wondering can be restful if you do it gently enough. Tonight we'll wander together through what science knows and doesn't know about dreams. We'll meet the orchestra of sleep stages, the cartographers mapping your night visions, the quiet librarian of memory, and the mysterious self that dissolves when you dream. But for now, we'll just sit with the first question, the simplest one. What is happening right now as you begin to grow sleepy? If we could peer into your head, we'd see the slow choreography beginning. The hypothalamus, that ancient regulator, dimming the body's lights. The pineal gland releasing melatonin like a soft hand on your shoulder. The prefrontal cortex, the planner, the worrier, gradually stepping away from the stage. Your brain is preparing the theatre, drawing the curtains, and as that happens, something else stirs, O listener. The part of you that observes without analyzing, that feels the hush before thought. This is where the night opens its eyes. Not to see the world outside, but to see the landscapes within. There's something very kind about the way the body does this. Every night, without asking for thanks, it builds a bridge between exhaustion and renewal. Every heartbeat slows, every breath lengthens until the mind can begin its secret work. The more science learns about it, the more it feels like an act of quiet love, a ritual older than language itself. You might notice your breathing matching the rhythm of these words.
That's no coincidence.
Your brain listens not only to meaning, but to cadence. The slow repetition tells your nervous system it's safe now. You can let go. That's the beauty of rhythm. It's the mind's way of holding your hand as you descend. In the next hours, we'll travel through stages of sleep, through the architectures and architectures of thought. We'll drift into REM, that wild and flickering ocean where stories form from fragments of memory. But don't worry about remembering it all.
You're not here to study.
You're here to feel wonder, softly, quietly. Perhaps you've wondered how many people are listening right now, scattered across the planet, sharing this same breath of curiosity. Some might be scientists themselves. Some might simply be dreamers. And maybe there's no real difference between the two. After all, science begins with wonder. And dreams, too, are a kind of wonder made visible. So wherever you are, under city lights or mountain silence, let this be your permission to slow down. The world will go on spinning. Messages can wait. Alarms will ring when they must. For now, there is only this: the hum of your own mind preparing to rest. The body settling like dust in sunlight. If you listen closely, you might even hear it, that soft internal sigh, that gentle agreement between body and mind. Yes, it's time. That's the moment the brain begins to loosen its grip.
That's the moment the night opens its eyes, and as it does,
the day folds itself away. Thoughts become threads, sensations dissolve, and the curtain between waking and dreaming drifts closed.
Slowly, like a tide coming in. If your eyes are heavy,
that's perfectly fine. We're only beginning. Let the night hold you while we learn how the mind paints its secret worlds.
And as we drift further,
you can rest. Hello there. Maybe you're already tucked beneath a blanket, or maybe you're still winding down, a dim light nearby, a quiet hum in the background. Wherever you are, let's imagine that you're holding a small lantern, one that doesn't burn with fire, but with wonder itself.
Its glow is soft, like the inside of thought.
It flickers just enough to remind you that curiosity is still alive even here. In the calmest hours of the night, we'll carry that lantern together tonight, down the winding hallway of a question that has followed humanity for thousands of years. Why do we dream? It's a question older than science, older than ink or written language. You can almost hear it in the first fireside stories told by our ancestors. People gazing at stars, wondering what happens to the mind when eyes close and the world disappears. In ancient Egypt, dreams were said to be doors through which the gods sent messages. Dream temples stood tall, filled with incense and silence. People would sleep there in hopes of receiving visions, not illusions, but guidance. In those quiet sanctuaries, a dream was a conversation with the divine. Across the sea, the Greeks believed dreams could heal. Physicians of the Asclepian temples asked the sick to sleep among sacred snakes, believing their dreams would reveal cures. Others thought dreams predicted fate, as though the future shimmered somewhere behind the eyelids, waiting to be seen. And then came the philosophers. Aristotle, with his usual calm precision, suggested that dreams were echoes, the mind continuing its work after the senses shut down. Plato, ever the mystic, wondered if the soul was freed by sleep, able to wander the cosmic garden it longed for. It's comforting,
isn't it, that even the greatest thinkers once lay awake,
asking the same questions you might have whispered to yourself on sleepless nights. What are these strange pictures? Why do I dream of places I've never been? Why do I wake up feeling that they mattered? Centuries later, Sigmund Freud entered the story, velvet-chaired and certain that dreams were windows into the unconscious, coded messages, disguises for desire. His language was ornate, heavy with metaphor. Every door, every train, every forgotten face meant something deeper. And though many of his ideas have drifted away with time, one still lingers, the belief that dreams speak a secret language we can almost understand. Others followed. Jung with his archetypes and myths, neuroscientists with their electrodes and machines, psychologists with notebooks full of half-remembered nights. The dream, that slippery visitor, eluded them all, always revealing just enough to keep us wondering. If you were to stand beside a modern sleep lab tonight, you'd see a room that glows faintly blue. Someone lies on a bed, a crown of sensors resting on their scalp. Each wire listens. On a screen nearby, the brain paints its own light show, waves rising and falling like tides. This is where the ancient meets the modern. One person dreaming and another quietly recording the rhythm of mystery. Neurons fire in bursts, little sparks that form constellations of activity. Some regions fall silent, others flare to life. The occipital lobe, the visual painter, glows bright even in darkness, conjuring color where none exists. The limbic system hums, draped in emotion. The logical front of the brain rests, surrendering control. Your lantern of curiosity flickers as we watch this silent performance. Dreams, it seems, are not just random static, they are structured improvisations. The brain doesn't go dark in sleep. It becomes an artist freed from reason's grip. The mind, untethered, begins to play, and still the question persists. Why? Some say dreams are practice, a kind of simulation chamber where you rehearse survival, replay fears, test emotions in the safety of unreality. Others believe dreams are memory sculptors, reshaping the clutter of the day into something smoother, more manageable. Some, more poetically, claim dreams are the mind's way of healing itself, turning pain into symbol, chaos into story, confusion into color. The truth might be all of these things, or something stranger still, something beyond explanation like art or love, because maybe the reason we dream is not to do something, but simply to be something, a being that wonders. Imagine for a moment watching your own sleeping brain as though it were a distant city. The lights blink on and off in patterns of meaning. REM waves ripple like streets filled with quiet movement. Somewhere in that city, a scene unfolds, a childhood home, a friend long gone, a hallway that never existed but feels familiar. Dreams have their own geography, impossible yet convincing, stitched together from fragments of memory, emotion, and imagination. Scientists call it memory consolidation, but that phrase feels too mechanical for something so human. What it really feels like is storytelling. Your brain, half resting, half remembering, weaves narratives to understand itself. And perhaps that's the secret. Dreams are the mind listening to itself think. When you wake and try to explain them, the garden that turned into an ocean, the voice that belonged to no one, the logic fades like mist rising from water, yet the feeling lingers. Dreams don't always make sense, but they leave traces, emotional fingerprints on the morning mind. Neuroscientists can track which regions light up, which chemicals surge or fade, but none of their instruments can measure meaning. That's where science meets poetry, because no matter how many electrodes you attach, you can't pin down wonder. The lantern you hold flickers again, softly, gently, casting its glow on this paradox. Science gives us structure. Dreams give us the infinite. One speaks in data, the other in metaphor. And between them lies this quiet corridor we're walking down, lit by curiosity, echoing with questions that lull instead of stir. If you close your eyes for a moment, you can feel it, that boundary where knowledge becomes reverence, the place where learning slows your breath rather than quickens it. That's where sleep story science lives on why, in the in-between, and perhaps this is why you're here listening, because there's a kind of peace in not knowing everything. Our ancestors, our philosophers, our neurologists, they were all dreamers, really, each holding a different lantern trying to illuminate the same dark room. If curiosity has kept you awake before, tonight it doesn't have to. Let it soften, let it hum quietly beside you. You don't have to solve the mystery. You only have to feel the beauty of its existence. Outside, the night continues its slow rotation. Stars, those distant furnaces of light, have been burning long before the first dream ever flickered in a mammalian brain.
And maybe, just maybe, the stars dream too in their own way, exploding, collapsing, reforming, repeating.
Everything that glows dreams. Everything that cools rests. Inside you, neurons flicker with the same elements that power suns. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. You are quite literally a star that learned to sleep, a star that learned to dream. And perhaps this is why, when we close our eyes, we see light, not from the outside, but from within. Phosphine patterns, tiny bursts of imagined brightness swirling across the inner sky. Your brain remembering what it means to shine. Hold your lantern close a little longer. The path ahead is gentle, but it will take us deeper. Soon we'll listen to the music of your sleeping mind, the orchestral rise and fall of waves and rhythms, the body's symphony in slow motion. But before we go there, let's pause here for a moment, in the glow of curiosity itself. Notice how the question feels now. Not sharp, not demanding, but kind.
It doesn't press you for answers.
It just keeps you company. That's what curiosity does best. It sits beside you in the dark and whispers, "Isn't it beautiful that we don't know everything?" The Egyptians turned to gods, the Greeks to oracles, Freud to the unconscious, neuroscientists to electricity.
And you've turned to stillness.
To this small hour where questions float like lanterns across the quiet water of your mind. So let's leave them there, glowing softly, because sometimes not knowing is the beginning of peace. And as you breathe, slower now, softer now, the lantern in your hands dims, but does not fade. It settles. The night watches over it. The question remains, but it no longer keeps you awake. It rocks you like the rhythm of waves. You are safe. You are curious. You are resting in the wonder of your own mind. And as we drift further, the orchestra begins to play. Imagine for a moment that you could stand quietly at the edge of your own mind as you sleep. You would see something extraordinary. Not silence, but symphony. 1,000 instruments all playing in patterns you can't quite hear, yet somehow feel. Welcome again to this invisible concert, the orchestra of the sleeping brain. You are lying still, and yet, inside you, entire worlds are moving. Neurons pulse in gentle rhythm as though the night itself were breathing through them. Electrical waves sweep through your cortex, slow and deep, like tides under moonlight. If you could see it, the sight would steal your breath, a glowing landscape, rippling in slow motion, shifting between rest and renewal. This is the architecture of sleep. The brain's nightly cathedral of rhythm, designed not for thought, but for restoration. The great city of your mind begins to dim its lamps. The outer streets, the senses will go quiet first. The sound of the world fades into static. The body loosens its grip on wakefulness. Alpha waves, those graceful, rolling signals of relaxed awareness give way to slower, heavier theta waves. The gates between worlds open. You are not awake, not yet dreaming. You are crossing over, and as you cross, the conductor raises the baton. Sleep begins gently, like a feather falling. But within minutes, the orchestra deepens. The drums of delta waves begin their soft, deliberate rhythm. Boom, pause,
Boom. Pause.
Each one is a pulse of healing, a wave that clears debris like the ocean cleaning its own shore. Scientists once thought deep sleep was quiet, inactive.
But they were wrong.
Deep sleep is work, the most intimate kind. Tiny glial cells, the caretakers of your neural garden, begin to sweep through the synapses, washing away molecular clutter left behind by thought. The brain cleans itself as you dream of oceans. It's beautiful, isn't it? But while you rest, the mind performs its own secret housekeeping. Each delta wave a brushstroke of renewal. Your heart rate slows. Your breath finds its rhythm. Blood flow redirects, sending oxygen and nutrients to regions that need repair. Even your DNA engages in its nightly mending. The night inside you becomes an ecosystem, perfectly balanced. You are not unconscious. You are being recomposed, and then the tempo shifts. The stage lights change color. The music grows strange, playful, unpredictable. This is REM sleep, the mind's improvisation. Your eyes move rapidly beneath your eyelids, tracing the rhythm of unseen symphonies. It is during this time that dreams begin to form, not in neat lines, but in fragments, bursts, collisions. The visual cortex, the brain's painter, ignites in bright activity. The limbic system, the emotional core, joins in with deep bass tones of feeling. The prefrontal cortex, the critic, the planner, the rational voice, grows quiet. There are no rules now.
No linearity. Only story.
Only metaphor. Your brain, like an artist half lost in color, begins to combine memories in impossible ways. A childhood street merges with a train from last week's commute. A friend's face appears, then dissolves into the sea. You walk through a house that doesn't exist, yet feels entirely your own. This is the theater of REM, where emotion paints reality and logic watches quietly from the back row as dreams unfold. Another orchestra joins in, quieter, subtler. It's the ensemble of memory. During REM, the hippocampus, the brain's librarian, opens its shelves. Files from the day drift by like papers in candlelight. Some are stored, some discarded, some rewritten entirely. You dream not just of events, but of meaning. The mind tests them, rearranges them, edits them for coherence. It's as though every night your brain writes a small story about who you are. And then, the next night, it revises it again. Dreams, then, are not random nonsense. They are nightly negotiations between the past and the possible. Scientists studying REM have found that it strengthens creativity, problem-solving, and even empathy. A dream might help you understand someone better, or find the answer to a question you didn't know you were asking. Think of it this way. When you sleep, you are not escaping the world. You are rehearsing it, practicing how to feel, how to think, how to be. And when you wake, the rehearsal continues, though the stage is different and the lighting harsher. The mind is not the only performer tonight. Your body joins the symphony, each system playing its part in perfect synchrony. Your muscles relax, yet twitch in small, rhythmic bursts, echoes of dreams you'll never remember. Your immune system works quietly, training its defenses. Hormones ebb and flow like the swell of cellos beneath the melody. Cortisol, the hormone of stress, lowers its voice. Melatonin rises, singing its dark lullaby. Growth hormones circulate, healing tissue, strengthening bone. Every cell seems to understand the score. Now is the time for rest. Now is the time to rebuild. And if you listen closely, really listen, you can almost hear it. The pulse of your own life, steady, ancient, tireless. A reminder that sleep isn't the opposite of living. It is the continuation of it. There is something almost spiritual about how the brain orchestrates stillness. Even silence here is structured. Every pause, every breath, every tiny electrical whisper has purpose. In deep sleep, the thalamus, that great relay station of sensation, closes its gates. External noise dims to nothing. Inside, the cortex hums in unified rhythm, waves aligning like a choir of monks chanting in perfect time. It's called synchronization, and it might be the most beautiful word in neuroscience. When neurons synchronize, consciousness dissolves, not into emptiness, but into coherence. It's as if the mind is saying, everything is one again. Rest now, that is the science of silence, not absence, but harmony. As the hours pass, your brain cycles through its symphony 4, 5, sometimes 6 times, each loop a journey. Deep sleep to REM, stillness to color, quiet to chaos, and back again. By the final act, near dawn, REM dominates. Dreams grow longer, more vivid, more narrative. The orchestra swells to its final crescendo, and then, slowly, the lights return. The prefrontal cortex reawakens. The thalamus reopens its gates. The sensory world begins to hum again. You rise, sometimes remembering the music, sometimes not. But even if the melody fades, the effects remain. Memories organized, emotions balanced, the brain renewed. Every morning, you are not quite the same person who fell asleep. You have been rewritten ever so slightly, refined by rhythm, sculpted by silence. Maybe the next time you drift to sleep, you'll think of this orchestra. You'll imagine the neurons playing their secret symphony, the body swaying in its unseen ballet, the heart keeping tempo like a timeless metronome. And you'll know you are not alone in the dark. You are surrounded by the most intricate concert in the universe, yourself. No composer, no musician, no stage, only rhythm, wave,
and wonder. So tonight, as the night folds around you,
listen, not with your ears, but with your being. Each breath is percussion, each heartbeat a note, each dream a melody rising toward the unknown. And perhaps in that music, you'll hear something deeper than knowledge. The quiet realization that everything alive is playing the same song. The stars hum it. The oceans echo it. Even your atoms vibrate to it. It is the song of continuity, of energy reshaping itself endlessly through sleep, thought, and renewal. The mind's midnight orchestra never truly stops. It only changes its tempo, and when you wake tomorrow, it will begin again. This time with the instruments of daylight, the melodies of memory, and the harmony of awareness, because every waking moment is a dream continued by other means, and every dream is life, quietly practicing itself. There's a moment every night when the orchestra softens and the map makers of the mind take over. The tempo slows, the lines between self and story blur, and suddenly you are no longer lying in bed. You are somewhere else, somewhere your mind is painting. Somewhere your neurons are sketching landscapes out of memory, shadows out of feeling, light out of thought. It begins quietly, a flicker behind the eyes, a pattern of electrical storms in the visual cortex, tiny sparks that somehow become mountains, faces, and skies. Your brain, in REM sleep, is the artist at its easel. Oxygen rushes to the occipital lobe, neurons dance in brilliant choreography, and without your permission, the world begins to form again. The eyes dart beneath their lids. Left.
Right, left, as those scanning horizons that don't exist.
To the waking world, you look still. Inside, you are a traveler moving through light. Scientists call this the hallucinatory nature of dreams. But hallucination feels too sterile a word for something so intimate.
It's not madness, it's making.
It's your mind rehearsing the language of imagination, testing what reality could be if it were just a little freer. Now the cartographers begin their work, the neuroscientists, peering into this mysterious terrain, trying to chart what can barely be contained by language. In labs glowing with pale blue screens, they place electrodes on sleeping heads and watch as color erupts inside the dark. The visual cortex hums. The amygdala, the deep well of feeling, glows like a candle. The prefrontal cortex, that planner, that analyst, grows quiet. It steps aside, letting the imagination drive. They map these patterns with names like activation, modulation, and synchrony. But beneath the jargon hums an ancient awe, because every signal on their monitors is a universe being built in miniature. A dream is the mind drawing its own geography, and every night the map changes. If you've ever dreamt of falling, or of running through endless corridors, or of meeting someone who is both familiar and impossible, you've walked through emotional terrain. The amygdala, that fiery core of feeling, is one of the brightest regions in REM sleep. It pours its emotion like pigment, coloring your dreamscapes with joy, fear, longing, or peace. The hippocampus offers its memory fragments, the cortex rearranges them, and the limbic system gives them heartbeat and breath. You are the architect, the traveler, and the scenery all at once. Some scientists say dreams are the mind's way of regulating emotion, a kind of nightly therapy session where your feelings stretch, unfold, and find their proper place on the map. So when you dream of being lost, your brain might be finding itself. When you dream of flying, it might be letting go. But the deeper the scientist's map, the more infinite the terrain becomes. Every scan reveals new pathways, loops of activity that defy neat explanation. The dreaming brain is like a coastline viewed from above. Each time you zoom in, you find more detail, more intricacy, more places for the tide of thought to wash and reshape. Even when we know the coordinates, the visual cortex for imagery, the amygdala for emotion, the hippocampus for narrative, the true cartography remains incomplete because the dream doesn't obey physics. It doesn't follow the rules of waking space. In dreams, you can walk into a room and find it infinite. You can turn a corner and meet yourself as a child. You can hold a memory in your hands and watch it breathe. To map this is to try to outline water with a pencil. And still, the scientists keep trying. Because to understand dreams is to understand the self in its most fluid form. Now let's drift inside the dream itself, not as observer, but as wanderer. The ground feels soft, yet undefined. The sky may be a hallway, the sea may hang above you like glass. You might begin speaking to someone you love, Olga, only to realize their face keeps changing, each version another memory layered atop the last. The rules here are kind, forgiving. Gravity listens but does not insist. Time folds in on itself like silk. Neuroscientists call this contextual integration failure. Poets call it wonder. Your brain is writing metaphors in 3 dimensions. It's merging yesterday's feelings with today's stray thoughts, painting the ineffable with the tools of perception, and somehow you accept it all. You do not question why your house is floating, why the clock is melting, why the people you meet keep turning into starlight. You simply move forward, trusting that the story will carry you. Even the scientists and the modern cartographers know that to map the dream is to risk flattening it. The more you define it, the less it breathes. The more you analyze, the more it slips through your fingers, so they work in humility. They listen to EEG waves like music, trace REM cycles like rivers, and admit that their instruments are only partial compasses. Somewhere between philosophy and physics lies dream science. Somewhere between data and awe lies truth. Perhaps that's what dreams are teaching us, that not everything meaningful can be measured, that some forms of knowing require surrender. The dream begins to dissolve. Its edges fade, its colors retreat like low tide on an endless shore. Your pulse slows. The REM phase wanes. The brain begins to ready itself for another descent into stillness, but something lingers.
A feeling, a symbol, a whisper of the world you just left.
It stays like mist in the morning, soft, uncertain, but full of hidden light. And even if you forget the story, the meaning remains, because each night, the cartographers of your mind redraw the boundaries between what you know and what you imagine. They make maps not for navigation, but for wonder, maps that guide you not through space, but through self, maps that remind you. You are vast, you are uncharted, you are still being drawn. So tonight, as you drift, remember the map makers, the neurons tracing luminous lines, the dreamscapes building themselves in silence. You are part of an ongoing creation, to a universe sketching itself through you. The stars above are maps, too, drawn by gravity instead of thought, but somehow they mirror what your mind is doing now, charting, revising, shining, erasing. And just as the cosmos never finishes expanding, neither does the geography within you. Every dream adds another coastline, every sigh another mountain. Every night another version of you appears, drawn gently in the margins of sleep. So let the cartographers work. Let the map and unmap, trace and forget. You don't need to know where the dream leads. It knows where to take you. And as your breath slows and your thoughts dim to watercolor, the map folds itself away, ready to be redrawn when the next night opens its eyes. Because in the end, the mind doesn't just dream.
It maps the infinite, and you are both explorer and explored. If your eyes are getting heavy, that's perfectly fine. Let the dream take over. Let the map blur.
Everything you need to know, your mind already remembers in its own quiet way. And as we drift further, we'll meet the keeper of those memories, the gentle librarian of the night. Somewhere deep inside the quiet night of your mind, someone or something is working late. Not with ink or paper, but with signals and sparks. The gentle librarian of memory, sorting, shelving, stitching your day into meaning. You might imagine them in a great hall of light, softly dusted with thought. Shelves stretch into forever, lined not with books, but with moments. Tiny, glowing vials of experience.
A smile, a sound.
A sentence you meant to remember, but didn't. Each one humming faintly, waiting to be placed where it belongs. As you sleep, your hippocampus hums with quiet activity. It replays the day's events in little bursts, like a record spinning softly in the dark. To scientists, this is hippocampal replay, the mind's rehearsal, a way of moving short-term moments into long-term memory. To poets, it's devotion. The brain's promise not to forget what mattered. Experiments show that even in mice, tiny neurons echo patterns of the day's adventures. The same cells that fired while the mouse ran a maze light up again as it dreams. A map retraced, a journey remembered. The dream becomes a story of repetition and repair. Your mind, too, is replaying. Scenes from your day may flicker briefly, transformed, exaggerated, dressed in dreamlight. A conversation you had may reappear as a theatre scene. A worry may disguise itself as weather. Your brain is turning experience into narrative, emotion into order. The librarian does not rush. They move slowly, gracefully, like someone who has learned that nothing important can be organized too quickly. They take the fragments, sights, sounds, feelings, and find them a home. What was fleeting becomes structured.
What was confusing becomes labeled.
Some memories are stored for a lifetime. Some are placed gently in the discard pile to make room for what will come next. You might think of sleep as forgetting, but that's only half true. It's curation. Your mind keeps what it needs to keep and lets the rest fade kindly into quiet. The librarian knows that forgetting is a form of forgiveness. That letting go is as vital as holding on. During deep sleep, slow waves roll through the cortex, broad, rhythmic pulses, like the sweeping motion of a broom across marble floors. Each wave is a signal, a transfer, a whisper between hippocampus and neocortex. "Remember this," one says. "I will," replies the other, and in that gentle exchange, your life becomes story, coherence carved from chaos. That's why sleep-deprived minds feel scattered. The librarian hasn't had time to shelve. The rooms are cluttered, the pages mixed. Only through rest can the catalogue return to order. Your sleeping brain is both archive and archivist, both record and restorer. And even now as you listen, some small part of your mind may be reorganizing the day, deciding what to keep. Memories are not stored as files, but as constellations linked across emotion, sensation, and meaning. That's why a smell can unlock a decade, why a song can summon a lost summer. Your amygdala, that warm keeper of feeling, binds memory to emotion like ink to parchment. Dreams are where those links are rewritten. In sleep, emotion and memory meet in conversation. A fear revisited may lose its edge. A joy remembered may find new depth. This is what the librarian knows best, that emotion is not an enemy of logic, but its language. That the heart, too, has its filing system. Sometimes you dream of the same places again and again. A hallway, a train station, a childhood home with unfamiliar rooms. That's no coincidence. The librarian loves familiar architecture. It's easier to file things where you've been before. Recurring dreamscapes are the brain's favorite filing cabinets. Mental spaces reused for new content. Like a favorite library chair that always waits for you, or a lamp that always glows the same warm gold. It's not that your dreams repeat, it's that your mind knows the layout. It's saving energy, tidying up using known blueprints, and within that structure, you feel safe enough to wander. Neuroscientists studying this process speak of synaptic homeostasis, the brain balancing its connections,
Strengthening what matters, pruning what doesn't, but there's something tender hidden in those terms.
Homeostasis is not just balance, it's care. It's the mind's version of tucking itself in. Imagine every neuron as a tiny librarian, checking its shelves, deciding what story to keep telling. Each connection you strengthen through learning, each pattern you rehearse, each dream that blends truth and imagination. All of it is part of your mental housekeeping. Every night, your mind cleans its room, not out of discipline, but devotion. And then comes the philosophical turn, the moment when the librarian looks up from their work and wonders why. Why remember at all? Why build an archive of days when everything eventually returns to dust? Maybe because memory is what gives shape to kindness. It's how we recognize, how we forgive, how we grow. Sleep ensures that each of those lessons, each quiet realization, each flicker of empathy but has time to take root. So when you wake tomorrow and something small feels lighter, a burden eased, a thought untangled, that's the librarian's doing. They've rewritten the catalogue overnight, updated the story of you. Picture it now. The last candle in that infinite library burning low. Shelves shimmer as they settle, each memory tucked into its place. A sigh moves through the corridors. The librarian closes their ledger, blows softly on the flame, and lets the hall fall into stillness. You are safe in that quiet. Everything that needed to be remembered is. Everything that can be released will be, and the mind, that grand, endless library, rests. Somewhere beyond metaphor, researchers have found that during sleep, synapses actually shrink. A delicate reset that prevents the brain from becoming overloaded. It's like cleaning the chalkboard before a new lesson, or clearing the desk before writing again. Without forgetting, we drown in noise, so the librarian lets go. Old, unused connections dissolve. The shelves are made lighter. And in that lightness, space is made for new understanding. Forgetfulness isn't failure. It's the mind's way of keeping room for possibility. When you dream tonight, perhaps of a place you can't name, or a person who feels half-remembered, know that you're visiting the archive itself. You are walking between the shelves, touching the bindings of your own experiences. The librarian nods as you pass. Content that their work continues, every color, every symbol, every strange half-memory. They're all part of your private museum of meaning, and, though you'll forget the details by morning, something in you will remember the peace of that place, because deep down, your brain remembers not facts but feelings, and the feeling of safety is the first book ever written. So if your eyes are getting heavy now, that's perfect. You can rest. The librarian is still awake, gently filing, gently keeping watch. Your memories are safe. Your thoughts are being tended to.
All is in order. Let the shelves fade to mist.
Let the librarian's footsteps echo softly away. You've done enough today. And as we drift further, we'll begin to wonder what happens when the self that dream, begins to dissolve. But for now, let the books close and let the night turn another page. There is a moment in sleep, soft, imperceptible, when the story of you begins to fade.
Not vanish exactly, just loosen.
The borders blur, the sentences pause, and something vaster begins to breathe beneath the name you call yourself. It's not death, and not even absence. It's the gentle unraveling that allows the mind to rest. The moment when the narrator steps off stage, and the dream itself begins to speak. Scientists sometimes call this the loss of self-referential processing, a phrase so clinical it misses the beauty of what's happening. What it means is this: the networks in your brain that define me and mine begin to go quiet during sleep. In waking life, the default mode network keeps the story of you alive, a hum of background narration, your plans, your memories, your opinions, your comparisons. It's the voice that says, I am thinking, I am feeling, I am here. But as you drift into sleep, that voice slows. The orchestra of self steps back, and silence takes the stage. You don't vanish, you simply widen. What remains is pure awareness without address or label, like a window open to the night air, no longer trying to frame what it sees. In the laboratory, EEG traces show a fascinating transition, alpha waves giving way to theta, the mind easing into its own surrender. The boundaries of I dissolve first in daydreams, then deeper still in hypnagogic states. That drowsy threshold between wake and dream, it's why the thoughts before sleep feel so strange, so fluid, so unreal. Your mind begins blending images, memories, and sensations without the usual narrator to make sense of them. You become an audience to your own flickering imagination. The world loses its outlines, and somehow that's comforting. Philosophers once feared this dissolution. They called it the death of consciousness. But neuroscience reframes it beautifully. It's the resting of the self, a necessary vacation from autobiography. You spend all day being you. Night is your time to be everything else. In dreams, have you noticed? You rarely see yourself clearly. Mirrors are fogged, faces shift. You sense yourself more than you see yourself. That's the self-dissolution in action. Your brain doesn't need an avatar. It remembers experience directly, sight, sound, feeling. Without the anchor of identity, from a cognitive perspective, this reflects the reduction of self-model integration. But emotionally, it feels like freedom. You can fly because gravity no longer belongs to you. You can breathe underwater because lungs no longer matter. You can become other people, other times, other worlds. The boundaries are gone, and what remains is pure possibility. This is what the sleeping mind teaches best. That identity is elastic. That I is not a prison, but a passing arrangement of thoughts. Long before brain scanners, mystics spoke of this same fading. Buddhist monks called it anatta, the no-self, a serene awareness beyond individuality. Sufi poets like Rumi called it fana, the melting into divine unity. And even the Stoics, more rational than romantic, spoke of oikeiosis, the expanding sense of belonging until self and world become the same. It's all the same phenomenon. The boundaries thin, and consciousness becomes a lake instead of a river. Science now observes it through quiet neural signatures, spirituality through wonder. Both meet in the same silence, because whether through meditation or REM, the result is peace, a release from narrative, a surrender to being. During REM sleep, the brain is both active and unanchored. The prefrontal cortex, the planner, the sensor, rests. But visual and emotional centers ignite, painting wild, fluid landscapes of possibility. Without the prefrontal guardrails, the self untethers from logic, floating through improbable stories that feel more real than waking life. This isn't chaos. It's renewal. Psychologists believe that dreams help reintegrate emotion, untangling knots of identity that daylight can't reach. In this way, your mind performs a sacred balancing act. Disassemble the self to rebuild it kinder. Forget your name to remember your nature. The next morning, you'll wake not quite the same person, just a little softer, a little more whole. If the self dissolves, who's dreaming? Cognitive scientists wrestle with this paradox. Some propose that consciousness itself is an emergent process, the orchestra playing itself into being. When the conductor steps away, the music doesn't stop. It shifts key. It becomes improvisation. Neural imaging studies show that even as self-narrative circuits dim, sensory and emotional regions stay active, meaning awareness persists, just unclaimed. You are still conscious, but without ownership.
That's what makes dreams so strange and serene.
They are consciousness without the burden of selfhood, a rehearsal for letting go. As you sink deeper into this thought, try imagining a world without I, no me or you, just knowing, just being. The wind doesn't say, I am blowing. The sea doesn't whisper,
I am the sea. They just are, complete in motion.
complete in silence. Sleep brings you closer to that state than anything else in life. The edges soften, your sense of time loosens, your thoughts become shapes instead of words. This is what it means to dissolve, to return to a more ancient rhythm of awareness. Older than language, older than identity, it's not erasure, it's expansion. Every so often, though, the self tries to reassert itself mid-dream, a flicker of lucidity, a sudden awareness. Wait, I'm dreaming. Lucid dreamers often describe the paradox beautifully. You are both author and character. It's the self, momentarily reawakened, looking around at the stage it built. But even then it doesn't dominate. Lucidity isn't control. It's collaboration. Your conscious and unconscious minds briefly shake hands across the veil. For a moment, the I and the infinite speak in the same language. By morning, as consciousness returns, the self reassembles. Quietly, like a stage crew resetting props, your brain pieces together time, name, memory, purpose, all the scaffolding that makes you possible. But something subtle lingers from the night before, a calmness, a perspective, a whisper that says, you are not just this. That's the gift of sleep's dissolution. It teaches you to wear identity lightly, to remember that beneath every name and role there is something vast and wordless, something that never quite sleeps. As you listen now, you might feel that vastness begin to stir again, that sense of spaciousness inside your chest.
As if the mind were a tide moving quietly through you. It's not imagination.
It's recognition. The self is a shoreline, deep, beautiful, necessary, but not the whole ocean. Every night, sleep lets you wade beyond it, into the deeper water. There, thought becomes current, memory becomes mist, and awareness drifts, unburdened, unbounded.
Unnamed, and you become the sea. So when you wake tomorrow,
Don't rush to rebuild the story too fast. Let the silence linger a little longer. Let the morning light touch your face before the day's thoughts arrive. You might even whisper to yourself, I am still the dream. Because in a way you are. Every cell, every synapse still hums with the echo of that nightly dissolution. And that's what keeps you balanced. The rhythm between remembering and forgetting, between being and being nothing at all. Sleep teaches that the mind is both drop and ocean, that the self is both necessary and imaginary.
and that peace lives in the space between the two. Now wait.
If your breathing has slowed, if the world has softened, if you've begun to lose the thread of words, that's perfect. You are stepping into the same quiet the scientists study, the same stillness the mystics sang about. The self dissolves, and all that remains is awareness and warmth and the rhythm of life continuing in peace. Let it happen. You are safe to disappear for a while. The you that sleeps will wake again, gentler, emptier, whole. Somewhere between thought and silence, your mind begins to look inward. It's like a mirror held up to another mirror. Reflection multiplying into infinity, consciousness dreaming of itself. Tonight, we step into that strange territory where awareness meets its own reflection. And the dreamer realizes it is dreaming, lucid dreaming. that rare moment when the sleeper becomes self-aware.
Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it?
To be awake inside sleep, to walk through the landscape of imagination while knowing it is imagination. Yet it happens, naturally, to millions of people each night. A flicker in the prefrontal cortex, the brain's rational planning region, reawakens just enough to whisper, "This isn't real, and yet it is." It doesn't break the dream, it illuminates it, like a candle relit in a dark theatre after the play has already begun. Some lucid dreamers can shape the dream, fly, create worlds, visit places that never existed, but feel achingly familiar. Others simply observe, marveling at the vast intelligence that builds entire universes behind closed eyes. The scientific mystery isn't that it happens,
It's that it happens at all.
that the same brain capable of questioning itself can, in the same breath, build illusions detailed enough to fool itself. In waking life, your consciousness feels like a steady flame, a single, continuous awareness. But in dreams, that flame dances wildly, bending and splitting. Neuroscientists describe the dreaming brain as a feedback loop, perception and imagination intertwined, each fueling the other. When you become lucid, you step inside that loop. You're both audience and actor, painter and painting, observer and observed. The paradox deepens. To see your own dream, you must be both inside and outside of it. That's the moment when the brain truly dreams of itself, a self-referential consciousness, a hall of inner mirrors. It's the mind's way of saying, "I know that I am," even when the I is made of vapor and neurons. Researchers studying lucid dreaming use a clever trick. They ask dreamers to move their eyes in a specific pattern, left, right, while inside the dream, because REM sleep allows the body to stay still, but the eyes to move. Scientists can see those signals on a polysomnograph, proof that awareness exists inside unconsciousness. It's a stunning discovery that consciousness isn't all or nothing. It's a gradient, a dimmer switch, a shimmer of mind that never fully goes dark. During lucidity, the prefrontal cortex lights up again, especially the dorsolateral prefrontal region, the seat of meta-awareness, the ability to reflect on thought itself. You are quite literally watching your own brain perform the act of watching. The universe, folded into a skull, studying its own performance in real time. When lucid dreamers describe their experiences, their language is filled with reverence. Some say it feels divine, a moment of direct dialogue with the subconscious mind. The painter meets the canvas. The scriptwriter steps into the story. The brain, unburdened by the body, realizes it is both architect and wanderer. Philosophers call this reflexive consciousness. It's the most profound level of self-awareness, not just knowing, but knowing that you know. In that instant, the mind transcends its own circuitry. It touches something borderless, a shimmer of existence observing itself, and yet it's all neurons, firing patterns, electrical whispers, the physics of awareness folded into flesh and electricity. That's the paradox of the human condition. We are stardust, dreaming that we are human. To understand this circular magic, scientists often map the interplay between the default mode network and the frontoparietal network. During normal dreaming, the default mode hums quietly, self-awareness dimmed, ego resting, but in lucid dreams, the frontoparietal circuit flares again, reconnecting reflection to imagination. You might think of it like this. The dream factory runs all night, but for a few moments the manager peeks in, not to interrupt, Just to marvel, that glimpse, that simple "I see," is enough to create lucidity. From that spark, entire philosophies have been born. Because what does it mean? If the brain can be both the dreamer and the one who knows it dreams, where does real begin and illusion end? Perhaps, the narrator muses softly, they were never separate at all. Plato imagined a cave where people mistook shadows for reality. Descartes doubted everything except the fact that he was doubting. And Eastern mystics whispered that all the world was Maya, a dream that believes itself solid. Science has simply caught up to poetry. The dreaming brain is a perfect metaphor for existence. It creates a world, inhabits it, believes in it, then wakes to realize it was the author all along. What if waking life is no different? What if consciousness is the long, lucid dream of the universe? Every neuron, every atom playing its part in the illusion of separateness, while somewhere, in a higher symmetry, the whole cosmos is watching itself unfold. Think of your mind as a theatre with no audience and no stage. Every image projected is also the projector. Dreams are the rehearsal, a nightly experiment in reality making. When you fly, the brain recruits motion regions as if you truly soared. When you speak in a dream, your auditory cortex hums with imagined sound. The dream feels real because your brain runs the same code as waking life, just freed from sensory input. In lucid dreams, you glimpse this mechanism. You realize the world isn't out there, it's inside, rendered in real time by a living imagination. You are the observer and the observed, the dreamer
and the dream. And so the narrator leans closer,
voice lowering into wonder. If your brain can create an entire world while you sleep, sky, ground, conversation, color, touch, how can you be sure that the world you wake into isn't another layer of dream? Physicists ask similar questions now. Quantum mechanics suggests that observation defines reality, that the act of watching collapses potential into form. In other words, the universe may be performing itself into existence through the eyes of consciousness. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its way of looking back, a neuron in the galaxy's vast mind, a dream cell in the universe that dreams. But don't let the thought make you dizzy. It's not meant to unsettle, only to soothe, because if everything is dream, then everything is connected. And if the brain dreams of itself, then the universe dreams through you. Each heartbeat echoes some larger pulse in the fabric of being. Each flicker of thought mirrors the birth of a star. It's all pattern,
all motion,
all one awareness looping endlessly through different forms. The realization doesn't demand fear. It invites tenderness. You can rest. You are part of the dream, and the dream is kind. Eventually, even lucidity softens. The prefrontal light dims again. The dream continues, but now the mind has tasted its own reflection. It drifts from awareness back into pure experience. No longer observing, just being. That's the arc of all consciousness, to awaken, to wonder, and to rest. The same happens in life. Each day, we awaken into stories, believe them completely, and then return to the quiet field of sleep, where even belief dissolves. Perhaps that's what dreaming is, a rehearsal for awakening, a nightly reminder that the self is fluid, that reality is porous, and that wonder is never meant to be solved, only savored. If your thoughts are slowing now, that's good. If your breathing has deepened, even better. Let the mind keep its quiet symphony. You don't need to listen. You are the song itself. And somewhere deep within, the brain continues to dream of stars,
of lives of itself, and maybe, just maybe,
Of you listening here tonight, there is a moment just before sleep fully claims you, when the mind loosens its grasp on reason. The world begins to shimmer, boundaries blur, and thoughts rearrange themselves into poetry. This is where the soft logic of night begins. It is not the logic of daylight, of order and consequence and proof. It is the logic of rivers finding their way to the sea, of clouds remembering how to change shape, of the moon knowing when to rise without asking why. And maybe the voice murmurs softly now. Maybe the brain dreams for the same reason the ocean makes waves, because movement is its nature. When you dream, your brain doesn't use sentences. It speaks in symbols, in echoes, in emotional syntax. A staircase that never ends, a familiar face that speaks in someone else's voice, a key that doesn't fit any door. These are the alphabet of the unconscious. Scientists studying REM sleep often describe it as the brain's emotional translator. The amygdala, the seat of feeling, glows bright like a small red lantern. The prefrontal cortex, the rational narrator, steps aside, letting imagery do the talking. In that space, your brain rehearses, replays, releases. It files away the ache of the day, translates pain into metaphor, and joy into scenes too fragile for daylight. Dreams are not nonsense. They are another kind of sense, one that doesn't need grammar to speak truth. That's the soft logic, emotion becoming geometry, memory turning into story. It is the language of water flowing where resistance eases. For years, scientists dismissed dreams as mental noise, random static from a resting brain. But slowly, the evidence gathered otherwise. Studies on REM deprivation showed that without dreams, the emotional circuits of the brain grow raw. Irritability rises, focus falters, and the mind loses its flexibility. Dreams, it turns out, are rehearsal spaces. They allow your brain to safely simulate the unspeakable, the improbable, the unresolved. In your dreams, you face fears and desires without consequence. The argument you never had, the goodbye you didn't say, the leap you didn't take, all of them find a stage. The brain, like a quiet playwright, runs the script again and again until it finds peace in the ending. REM cycles repeat every 90 minutes, like tides returning to the shore. Each time, the dreams grow longer, deeper, more cinematic. It's as though the mind dips a brush into memory again and again, each stroke blending the real with the imagined until the border disappears entirely. And within that rhythm, there is a kind of wisdom. Dreams loop not to confuse, but to comfort. Each repetition whispers, "It's safe. You've been here before." Perhaps the brain doesn't dream to remember. Perhaps it dreams to forget, to soften the edges of the day, to sand down the splinters of experience until they fit quietly into memory. Maybe forgetting is the most merciful form of remembering. When neuroscientists record the sleeping brain, they see bursts of activity, the spindles of light, ripples of slow waves, tiny storms of recalibration. During REM, stress chemicals fall away. Cortisol lowers, norepinephrine retreats. The night becomes a safe laboratory for emotional alchemy. Imagine your brain as a garden at dusk. Dreams are the gardeners, tending, pruning, planting seeds of understanding. A conversation you had earlier in the day is replayed in miniature, but in the dream, the edges soften. You might laugh instead of argue, embrace instead of turn away. When you wake, you feel lighter, though you may not know why. That's the quiet work of REM, emotional integration disguised as story. Most dreams vanish within minutes of waking. 90% dissolve like fog in sunlight, but perhaps they are not meant to be kept. Perhaps their gift lies in their disappearance. The sleeping brain speaks, and the waking mind listens only long enough to feel the echo. It's like a lullaby hummed in another room. You don't need to hear every word to be comforted by the melody. The logic of night doesn't require recollection. Its purpose is peace, not permanence. A dream forgotten may still have done its healing. Dream interpretation has existed as long as humans have wondered. The Egyptians thought dreams were divine telegrams, the Greeks' prophecies. Freud thought them coded letters from the unconscious. Jung called them messages from the self. Science, with all its scanners and sensors, has given us a new lens, but not a final answer. Dreams remain that rare meeting place where data and myth hold hands, where MRI scans and ancient symbols tell the same story in different dialects, that we are creatures who must imagine to survive. If you could write the mathematics of a dream, it wouldn't look like algebra. It would look like rhythm, a rise of heart rate here, a slowing of breath there, waveforms folding over one another, theta merging into alpha, patterns that feel less like thought and more like tide. When emotion becomes too large for daylight logic, the brain converts it into image. That's why you can dream of falling and feel it in your stomach. Why you can dream of someone gone and feel them vividly near. It's the body's way of reminding you that feelings are real, even when their stories are imagined. Sometimes when we can't find meaning in waking life, our dreams take over the search. You might find yourself talking to someone you haven't seen in years, or walking a childhood street that no longer exists, or looking into a mirror and finding someone wiser there. Dreams give you the conversation you didn't know you
Needed, maybe everything.
We call learning is just remembering what we already
New in our dreams. In that sense, dreaming isn't escape, it is translation.
It converts life into understanding, experience into peace. The voice lowers now, slower, rounder, the kind of rhythm that feels like breathing. You are not a machine. You are an organism that dreams to stay whole. Even your resting mind works gently, balancing emotion, reconnecting memory, mending thought. Every night, the mind drifts into its own infinity, and every morning, it returns, carrying some quiet gift you can't quite name. Maybe that's enough. Maybe meaning doesn't need to be caught, only felt, like warmth in a room. Imagine the night as a spiral, each turn bringing you closer to stillness. At first, curiosity keeps you awake, then fascination holds you. Then understanding soothes you, and finally, a deeper rhythm takes over. One that doesn't belong to language at all. It's the rhythm of neurons resting, of heartbeats syncing with breath, of the universe breathing through you. The same rhythm that turns galaxies, that moves tides, that whispers through the body as you fall asleep. There's no need to think now. Thinking belongs to the day. Night prefers feeling, drifting, being. If the ideas from earlier sections still linger at the edges of your mind, neurons as orchestras, dreams as cartographers, memories as librarians, let them fade. You don't have to hold them. You don't have to remember the science to feel its truth. Just breathe. The night understands what you cannot yet say. Perhaps your mind is a candle flickering in the soft wind of the cosmos. Each dream, a moment of light in the great dark that loves you. When the philosophers and neuroscientists have finished their debates, when the data cools and the stars come out, one truth remains. Dreaming is not a puzzle to be solved. It is a gift, and the mind's nightly act of kindness. So if your eyes are heavy now, that's perfectly fine. If your thoughts drift like soft clouds, that's what they're meant to do. You are safe. You are part of something vast and kind, and as the night folds around you, you can let go of logic altogether. Because the soft logic of night is love disguised as science. It asks for nothing but your surrender. Let it have you. Let the mind dream its quiet equations. Let the body rest in the language beneath words. The day will come back when it's ready. For now, float. And as you drift further, remember, the universe itself dreams through you. There is a depth below waking thought, a slow, luminous sea where the mind drifts free of itself. If you listen closely, you can almost hear it, a rhythmic pulsing beneath your skull, like the tide of your own awareness moving gently in and out. This is not imagination. It is physiology, rhythm, life. Your brain waves are literally waves, oscillations of electrical energy rising and falling through the neural sea. They are the ocean that thought floats upon. And tonight we descend into them, softly, slowly, until even thought becomes a whisper. Close your eyes, if they aren't already. Imagine that your mind is a dark blue ocean. Every flicker of awareness, every drifting memory is a wave forming on its surface. Scientists call these waves oscillations. There are 5 main kinds: gamma, beta, alpha, theta, and delta. They are not enemies or competitors. They are moods of the brain, each one tuned to a different tempo of being. When you are alert, thinking, analyzing, beta waves dominate, brisk and sharp. When you begin to relax, alpha waves flow in, gentle ripples of calm focus. As sleep approaches, theta and delta waves emerge, slow, wide, peaceful, as if the mind itself were exhaling. The deeper you go, the slower the rhythm becomes, until the waves move so slowly they feel like stillness. That's where sleep lives, in the quietest motion imaginable. Every cell in your brain keeps time. Even in silence, neurons pulse in rhythm. Electrical musicians playing an invisible symphony. During the day, that symphony is fast and bright, full of tempo changes and sudden bursts of melody. But at night, the conductor slows the beat. Brain waves begin to harmonize, aligning with the cycles of breath and heartbeat. The music becomes lullaby in sleep studies. Researchers have watched this transformation in real time. Patterns of light on monitors slowing, synchronizing, like fireflies agreeing on one rhythm. This synchronization, this merging into one shared tempo, is not just beautiful. It's essential. It allows the brain to rest, to integrate memory, to rebuild the scaffolding of thought that waking life dismantles. Every slow wave is a repair, a renewal, a note of rest in the endless score of being. Imagine yourself floating on the surface of that inner sea. The air is cool, the stars reflected in the water. You begin to sink, not falling, but descending gracefully through layers of stillness. At first, the world hums in beta, busy, bright, conversational. Then you pass through alpha, the mind's twilight, where thoughts become light and slow. Deeper still, theta greets you, the frequency of dreams, of childhood memories,
of imagination that blurs with truth. Finally, you reach delta, the great slow tide.
One wave every second or two, as if the universe itself were breathing. Here, neurons move in chorus, as though the entire brain has agreed on silence as its song, and in that near stillness, your consciousness dissolves into something larger than knowing. In delta sleep, deep, dreamless, restorative, the brain performs miracles of repair. Cells clear waste through the glymphatic system, a nocturnal cleansing river that washes toxins away. Proteins like beta amyloid, which can cloud and damage neural pathways, are quietly removed. The body follows suit. Muscles rebuild, hormones balance. The immune system fortifies. It's strange, isn't it? The less conscious you become, the more intelligent your biology grows. Deep sleep is the body's secret genius, its invisible self-maintenance program, running quietly while you drift unaware, as if the universe decided that wisdom doesn't need witness. Your sleep is not a straight line, it's a spiral. Each night, you move through stages again and again: light sleep, deep sleep, REM, then back toward waking, and down again. A single cycle lasts about 90 minutes, each one carrying you through a full voyage across the ocean of brain waves. At first, deep sleep dominates, repairing, cleansing, restoring. Later, REM expands. Dreams lengthen, emotions integrate. It's a perfect choreography, like the tides, balanced between stillness and movement. By the early morning, your brain has floated through 4 or 5 complete tides. Each one brings you a little closer to calm. Each one rewrites the story of the day into something the soul can carry more lightly. We often think of thoughts as separate, as if each one were a word or image in isolation. But the brain doesn't think in pieces. It thinks in patterns, in waves. One wave triggers another, and another, until consciousness forms like weather. So, perhaps your self isn't a fixed entity at all, buddy, but a shape that the waves take. For a moment in time, the ocean doesn't ask where. One wave ends and the next begins. It only moves, breathes, reflects the moon. In that same way, your awareness flows, arising, dissolving, never quite the same twice. Dreams, thoughts,
Memories, they're all waves folding into one another.
separate for a heartbeat, then gone. And maybe that's not loss. Maybe that's how you remain infinite. Every wave, even the smallest one, carries information. Brain waves are the same. Tiny electrical ripples encoded with meaning. Scientists can read them now with EEGs and neural maps, watching your thoughts translate into oscillations on a screen. When you listen to music, beta rises with melody, alpha hums with rhythm. When you meditate, theta strengthens, the brain practicing tranquility. In the deepest meditative states, monks have shown delta waves while fully conscious, the waking mind resting in the sea of sleep. Perhaps this is what ancient traditions were pointing to all along, that stillness isn't the absence of motion, it's perfect motion, motion so unified it feels like peace, even as you rest. The ocean of your brain is never idle. During light sleep, waves carry the day's memories outward from the hippocampus, that seahorse-shaped keeper of experience, to the cortex, where they settle into long-term storage. It's like moving thoughts from the desk to the archive, organizing the mind's shelves while you sleep. Each ripple, each oscillation is a courier of remembrance, delivering meaning across the sea of the self. And when the sorting is done,
A soft silence returns.
the silence of a well-tended library where everything
Has found its place. There's something quietly profound about realizing your body meditates for you each
night, even if you never sit cross-legged in stillness. Even if your thoughts race all day, your brain still finds peace in its own design. In deep sleep, your breath slows naturally, heart rate falls, muscle tension melts. It is as if nature built its own nightly meditation practice into your biology. A surrender that asks for nothing. No discipline, no effort, just the willingness to rest. And maybe that's the true teaching of sleep, that peace isn't something you chase. It's something you allow. If you zoom out far enough, the metaphor becomes literal again. Neurons communicate through waves. So do atoms and stars and galaxies. Quantum fields ripple. Space-time vibrates. The universe hums with frequency. Perhaps brainwaves are not isolated, but harmonics of something vaster. Each thought a small echo of the cosmic. Vibration that holds everything in place. The same mathematics that describes your delta waves also describes the pulse of stars. Maybe consciousness is not confined to the skull. Maybe it's the universe dreaming through matter,
learning to feel itself through your mind. Listen, beneath the words,
there's a rhythm forming, slow, steady, like the pull of the tide. Inhale, a wave rising. Exhale, a wave returning. You are part of the rhythm now. Each breath a synchronization. Each heartbeat a verse in the song of being. There's nothing left to analyze, nothing left to prove. Just waves endlessly folding into quiet. Let the science drift away and feel what remains. A soft current carrying you deeper into rest. There is a state beyond dreaming, beyond even the images and feelings of REM. It's called slow wave sleep.
A vast dark stillness.
Consciousness recedes completely, but awareness remains as potential, like a candle unlit, waiting to be flame again. In those moments, the boundary between you and the universe dissolves. The self stops narrating. Time becomes irrelevant, and yet something within you continues to hum. A quiet, wordless intelligence, keeping your heart, your breath, your being. This is the deepest meditation, the ultimate letting go, not the absence of life, but its purest form. Eventually, morning comes, the tide reverses, waves quicken, thoughts condense, you rise toward waking, carrying traces of the ocean on your skin. A faint memory of peace, a shimmer of something sacred, and as the day begins, you might feel softer, kinder, quieter. That is the ocean's gift, to let you go and keep you whole. So now if your eyes are heavy, you can rest knowing that every wave within you is tending, mending, preparing you for the light to come. Beneath the waves of thought, you are never lost. Only floating. Let the neurons sing their slow lullaby. Let consciousness become current. Let yourself be carried beyond analysis, beyond knowing, into the pure rhythm of being, because sleep is not an ending. It's a return to the ocean that made you. There is a quiet in the room. The lamp flickers softly. The world outside hums faintly, and you, wherever you are tonight, a part of something larger than any single thought. Welcome again, in this gentle moment between wakefulness and dream, to the closing of our journey. From the first flicker of curiosity, through the symphony of neurons across the landscapes of memory and imagination, we have traveled the night together. Now the journey turns inward and outward at once, because you are both the observer and the observed. A universe folded into itself, dreaming through the very cells of your body. Remember the study lamp from the beginning, the one that flickered over a quiet desk, a cup of cooling tea beside it? That same gentle light still exists here, not as a physical object, but as a metaphor for consciousness itself, a soft glow illuminating the rooms of your mind. Just as that lamp casts shadows that dance without effort, your thoughts have moved across this night's journey, tracing patterns, merging memories, tuning emotions like strings in a quiet orchestra. Everything you've experienced in this story, curiosity, wonder, the poetic science of sleep, has now been woven into the soft fabric of your awareness. And perhaps that is what dreaming itself is. The mind lighting its own lamp in the dark. Look beyond your eyelids.
Even if you cannot see them, stars drift across the sky.
Galaxies turn in slow, unhurried arcs, and in their turning, mirror the slow waves of your neuron. Science has shown us that the elements in your body, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, the oxygen in every breath, were born in stars long gone. So in a very literal sense, you are stardust dreaming of itself. Your neurons fire, your heart beats, and in those small acts the universe learns what it means to feel, to imagine, to exist. It is both humbling and comforting. You are vast yet held.
Infinite yet intimate.
A microcosm reflecting the cosmos. Even now, as you drift closer to complete stillness, let the mind absorb one final set of truths. Sleep is both creative and restorative. Dreams rehearse, integrate, and cleanse. REM and deep sleep alternate, building rhythm, balance, and continuity. Neurons and glial cells work silently, clearing metabolic waste, repairing tissue, preparing body and mind for the next day. It is a system of exquisite precision that runs while you surrender to rest. And yet, the beauty of it is not only in the mechanics, but in the poetry of function. Every wave, every oscillation, every dream is part of a vast story that connects biology to meaning. Your mind is both laboratory and cathedral, a place of experimentation, yes, but also of wonder, awe, and infinite imagination. Somewhere right now, others are listening to the night as you are. Somewhere, others are drifting into dreams while the same moon watches silently. Before you drift away, tell me where you're listening from tonight. I whisper softly. It's comforting to know we are dreaming together, even if our bedrooms are oceans apart, even if our cities speak different tongues. You are not alone. The act of sleep is a communal miracle. All creatures, all minds, sharing this rhythm of rest and renewal. Take a deep, slow breath. Feel the invisible hand of this connectedness curl around you like a blanket, warm, safe, and unhurried. Words are now unnecessary. The science, the metaphors, the poetic descriptions have done their work. Your mind is calm.
Your body is calm.
The neurons continue to hum. The glial cells continue to sweep. The ocean of thought moves beneath the surface, gentle, steady, restorative. And in this stillness there is language too. The language of being alive.
Of consciousness folding in on itself, learning to rest, to release.
To dream without needing to remember. This is the lullaby the universe sings to you. Not in syllables, not in sentences, but in rhythm, in pulse, in soft, infinite pattern. Tonight you have traveled through the architecture of dreams, through the symphony of brain waves, through the gentle logic of emotions, and into the quiet of pre-sleep stillness. Take a moment in this final pause to be grateful for the night, for the neurons that worked tirelessly, for the sleep cycles that harmonized, for the dreams that guided, healed, and taught, for the moon, the stars, the quiet universe that cradles you as you rest. Gratitude need not be loud. It can be soft, a whisper between heartbeats, a gentle recognition that you are here and that the night has carried you. Let go. Let the words dissolve into the soft dark of your mind.
Let the lamp of consciousness dim into the distance. Your breathing is steady.
Your heart is steady. The tides of brain waves ebb and flow. This is the moment where science becomes magic, and magic becomes science. You exist, and the universe exists through you. You are both observer and participant, dreamer and dreamed. No need to analyze, to recall, to reason. Just drift. Let your consciousness float on the rhythm of night, held by the slow, unending, loving logic of the cosmos. Wherever you are, I hope tonight carried you somewhere peaceful, somewhere quiet, somewhere infinite, somewhere that feels like the very center of being. And when you awaken, if you awaken, you will carry a fragment of this night, a sense of calm, a sense of connection, a sense of being stardust dreaming of itself. Before you drift completely into sleep, tell me where you are listening from tonight. It is comforting to know that we are dreaming together. The night is generous. The universe is generous. And you, breathing, dreaming, resting, a part of it all. Sleep well.